All right. I will call us to order at 6 p.m. on November 5th, 2020. Just really quick Zoom rules for everybody. We are going to mute all mics, and you'll only be unmuted by the chair during public comment windows, and our presenters all unmute you. Heather and Quentin from SCDC. Items 4, 9, 10, and 11 will be your opportunities for public comment. Members of the public will be giving their public input. You may either raise your hand in the participant section, or you can ask in the chat, and I'll unmute you if you're having some issues finding that button. I don't think we have any people on the phone this morning, or sorry, this evening. Gosh, I don't even know where I am right now. And again, people on the phone, you can type *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself, but we'll help you out through that. So we will start with the flag salute, and I'll lead us off. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States
of
of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Wendy, you want to do roll call?
Yes, Councilmember Arth.
Here.
Councilmember Bryan.
Present.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Let me go back in, hopefully. Bruce.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry. I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Councilmember Keisler.
I'm here.
And Mayor Lucchese.
Present. Thank you, Wendy. All right, I'm going to move us into our special presentation for Siskiyou Economic Development Council, and I will find Quentin and Heather. You guys should be able to unmute yourselves.
Okay. Can I share my screen?
So we have it up here. Do
Oh,
you see
okay.
it? Yeah, we're gonna do it this way. So yeah, whenever you're ready, just let me know, and I can scroll through and help you guys out.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on the share screen. Sometimes when you share screen, it shares a specific page. There we go. All right, we should be good to go.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
All right. So hello, everybody. My name is Quentin. I work with Siskiyou Economic Development Council, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Heather Dodds. She'll be speaking after me. So we're going to provide you with an update of some of our work we've been performing over the last quarter, and more so over this this period of time dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. It's, most of our work has pivoted because of it. You can go to the next slide, please. So starting with SBDC, so we started hosting the Small Business Development Center in Siskiyou County in 2016. And right now we're serving about 200 businesses countywide. 29 of those businesses are located in Dunsmuir. And one of the interesting things is we had such a flurry of requests for business assistance because of the COVID-19 pandemic that we, probably doubled or tripled what we would do in a normal year in just a couple months' time. So we've been helping a lot of businesses, adapt their business plans, seek contingency funding. If you go to the next slide, we've helped businesses leverage $15 million in business capital. That includes funds from the Payment Protection Program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loans, the CDBG programs we have under development, and then the countywide Coronavirus Relief Fund. So if you go to the next slide, one of the biggest activities of the last quarter that we've done is we've partnered with the Siskiyou County on developing the county CRF grant. And so with this grant, sort of the background behind this was Siskiyou County got several $1 million out of the CARES Act, passed through to it from the Department of Finance at the state level. And we advocated for them to put some money towards business assistance. So they set aside $1.5 million, and we've been offering that up and slicing it up into $10,000 grants for small businesses to apply for. We can't tell you any specifics beyond this, but we can say that 10 businesses in Dunsmuir have applied for the program. And then if you go to the last slide for my section before I hand it off to Heather. So we're working with the city of Dunsmuir on several community development block grant programs. The first is a county-wide program that is going to be used for additional coronavirus relief funds. And the city of Dunsmuir is actually serving as the lead grantee for everyone in Siskiyou County who's participating in that program. And that should be out this next year, and it'll be $700,000 out to businesses within a 12-month period. And then we're working on an additional $500,000 program with the city staff for a several-year program to also assist microenterprises. And I think both these programs are going to be very key at the local level, especially if we have to go further back in lockdown and more restrictions are in place as coronavirus numbers spike. With that, I'm going to pass that off to my colleague Heather, and she's going to take it from there.
Great, thank you, Quentin. We can go to the next slide. All right, so we wanted to talk to you guys about a really cool campaign we did called Shop Safe, Shop Local. We worked with JEDI and the Office of Emergency Services to deliver PPE kits that contained surgical masks and hand sanitizer to businesses throughout the county. 25 Dunsmuir businesses received the PPE kits. Just a couple off the top of my head: Cave Springs, Burger Barn, Ted Fay Fly Shop, Dunsmuir Brewery Works, Cafe Madalena. Lots of the businesses we know and love all received these kits. So that was just a really cool way that we could help out and kind of take, one thing off of business owners' minds as they worked to adhere to the guidelines set forth. Okay, next slide. All right, the farmers market program. This is really cool too. So the EDC leveraged $4,500 in private foundation funding specifically for the Dunsmuir farmers market and Dunsmuir residents. $3,500 was leveraged for market match, which was double the purchase power for residents in need at the Dunsmuir market, up to $20 per person per visit. And $1,000 in funding will also be provided to the Dunsmuir market to assist in COVID-19 related costs. And then finally, in partnership with the Dunsmuir market, the EDC is launching a 3-year project to increase awareness and sales at farmers markets across Siskiyou as a whole. So that obviously includes Dunsmuir. And it's just a way for us to put some marketing power behind our really awesome farmers markets. So that's pretty cool. All right, next slide. Let's see, tourism. Tourism is actually going really well right now. A lot of people are wanting to get out of urban areas and come recreate in Siskiyou where they can distance a little bit. That said, our Discover Siskiyou team is really working to promote safe travel. And while we are obviously welcoming tourism dollars in our county, we're also really playing up the fact that travelers need to respect the safety of our residents and practice proper distancing, follow protocols. And honestly, I feel just from what I've seen that people are really paying attention. I've seen people masked up on trails in restaurants, and so that seems to be going well, but we're really promoting responsible recreation right now. As you can see here, our digital reach is pretty great right now. We went quiet on our search marketing for a few months, kind of when coronavirus first started. We relaunched in August, and we saw our conversion rates increase by 400%. We count a conversion as a click on the book now button on a lodging property on our website. So that was really cool. As you can see here, we had 192,000. That was our reach August 2020. So that's engaged unique users in our social channels, which is pretty awesome. We are also pitching Siskiyou to news outlets as part of our PR strategy. We've had in the last quarter 15 different publications publish articles about travel in Siskiyou. And then we can do next slide, I think. Maybe? Yeah, so this is a cool new campaign that we're working on called Work From Here. We're really wanting to leverage the work from home trend that is happening right now. And, you know, Siskiyou is a really great place to do that. We have lots of lodging properties, lots of co-working spaces, things that people can take advantage of and work from anywhere. So we're preparing to launch this campaign here in the next few weeks. And the cool thing we're doing along with it is we're actually giving away a 3-day stay in Siskiyou for somebody who's working from home to try it out and see how they like it. So we're pretty excited about that. And I don't know if you can tell, but this picture was taken at the Mossbury Hotel in Dunsmuir. So we threw that in there for you guys. Let's see, podcast series. Between May and August, we released 8 episodes of the new Discover Siskiyou podcast series. This is produced for us by our friends at Pusher. Thank you. And every episode starts with a little shout out to historic downtown Dunsmuir where our episodes are produced. So that's really cool. So give those a listen if you haven't yet. We've had really good feedback on those. And then the last thing, last slide, we wanted to hit on, so you can see here, this is occupancy data provided to us by Visit California. We are part of the Shasta Cascade region here in Siskiyou, and as you can see on the left, we are the only region in California right now that is actually reporting growth in occupancy rate compared to this time last year. And you can't see it in this graph, but within the Shasta Cascade region, which includes several Northern California counties, Siskiyou is actually leading all of them. So that's pretty encouraging to see.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's it for our slides, and we're definitely willing to answer any questions anyone has.
Sure. And Council Member Deutsch, you have a question?
Yes, I did. Heather, I'm not sure if it's you or or Quentin, but I'm concerned about moving into the winter season with our restaurants. And so the first question is there any sort of coordination from you, maybe with public health, as to how to best do that, get through the winter? And then the other question is, I've been wanting to see if EDC could come up with a connection with the program where the restaurants feed the seniors, because I think that would be an avenue for us to maintain our economy going through the winter if we could get lined up with that program. So is there any news on where we stand with regards to getting into that program?
Well, I can take your first question as far as communicating with public health and, you know, especially as it relates to tourism and with restaurant guidelines and all of that. So we do work really closely with them, and actually through our Small Business Development Center back when restaurants originally closed, and then they kind of were unsure, can we reopen for indoor dining? Will they, won't they? We actually facilitated webinars with restaurant owners and staff with the public health officials so they could ask questions, really get some clarity on the guidelines, and we will definitely do that again. You know, as you know, cases are kind of on the rise, and looking at maybe bumping back a tier in the next few weeks, and so we are poised to definitely do that again and just make sure that everybody has accurate information. And then on the tourism side, making sure that we communicate that to travelers and let them know what they can expect if they come here so that they can adhere to those guidelines. And as far as the senior program, I don't know, Quentin or Corey, do you want to chime in on that at all? That might be more of a Corey question, if we can unmute her.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I love that comment, Bruce, connecting, you know, sort of the community need in Dunsmuir with the economy in terms of restaurants. I think that's what you were mentioning. And
Yeah.
And there's a couple things there. In terms of the revitalization network, we have representatives in every city that is really talented at sort of spurring community involvement in specific targeted ways like this, where they kind of blend community and economy. So the group that I work with is a place I could see that fitting a little bit. We're the group that assisted with the farmers market match that helped Dunsmuir residents in need and connected to producers. So you could see where I could make that parallel between seniors and restaurants. So thanks for asking that question.
Thanks.
All right, council members, are there any other questions? All right. Seeing none, again, we can always reach out to SEDC at any time. So if you have any other additional questions after this, I would highly encourage council members and members of the public to reach out via email and have that go forward. But thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for the update and work that you've been doing to support all of our businesses in Siskiyou County as we move through this definitely a different time. So I'm going to move us into our next item, which is general public comment. This is the time for members of the public to address an issue that is not on the agenda or is on the consent agenda item 7, which I have listed below. You may also make comments on the special presentation that we just had. And you can either, again, go to the chat function and let me know that you would like to speak on an item, or you can go to the participant section and raise your hand. Are there any general public comments tonight? All right. I don't see any general public comments. And Wendy, did we get any emails that we should read?
No, we did not.
Madam
Okay,
Mayor,
thank you.
my computer says I have a short comment from Devin.
Oh, okay. Thank you. It didn't, for some reason, it's a little bit laggy on my side. Devin, I will find you. All right.
Hello.
All right, go ahead, Devin.
Hi, people. I can't let a meeting go by without making a comment. I've been talking to a lot of people this week on social media. Mostly it was about the theater. A lot of the public was discussing the fact that the theater was open, and I understand that Chief Padilla said it was structurally sound, but people are still pretty interested in the idea of enforcing the disused derelict buildings ordinance, if I can call it that. I know that's not the really real name, but we're really interested in that. I understand that might come up later tonight, but just as an offshoot of that, it seems like public meetings are listed on the website really no further in advance of a meeting than 5 or 6 days, and people are asking me why, if the meetings are regularly scheduled, all the city meetings, why can't we just have a calendar for the whole year, with a caveat that sometimes the meetings times might change and that people should check a week in advance, maybe a big banner. But for some people, it's really hard to schedule attending a meeting if their only notice is 5 days in advance. A lot of people, their whole week is filled up, every Sunday, the whole rest of the week is full and they can't really change it. So it would be really useful. I think it would help to encourage more public discourse and more public involvement. I think we really need that. We had hardly anybody running for 2 council seats this year. I'd really like to see more people, politically engaged. So I'm asking you to please direct your staff to just put all the meetings out there for, 3 months in advance or something. Just, it would really help a lot to get people interested in coming to meetings and participating. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any other general public comments for tonight? Again, comments on the consent agenda, our presentation that we just had, or an item not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we're going to move into staff and member comments. I think to address the public comment really quick about meetings. So our meetings are standard. They happen every first and third Thursday of the month. We have not, I don't think we've even, I think maybe we've had one special meeting in the last 2 years since I've been on council, but very rarely do we have the special meetings happen. But just for everyone to know, is they're always on the first and third Thursday of the month. And typically they begin at 6 p.m. The only time we have it start at 5:30 p.m. is when we have a closed session, which members of the public are not able to join for that closed session. Then we begin at 5:30. But we've been really good about getting to our regular schedule at the regular time. So just to let everyone know that that is standard. That's how we've always kind of been doing it. And it's in our protocols that way. So you can encourage people that it is the first and third Thursday of the month. We don't typically put out agendas ahead of time because we need to get the information ready to go for the agenda packets. And that is usually out at least 72 hours in advance. And that is a state regulation. So that's typical to what we do. And if people have any questions on when items may be on the agenda or coming up, they can feel free to contact city staff and they can give them a ballpark on when that item may be coming back to the council agenda or being introduced to the council. So that's just to address that comment there. I'm going to start with staff, Councilmember Arth, but I just wanted to address the comment in public comment since it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to start with City Manager Uhas. Go ahead.
So there are a number of updates that I'm going to give in detail further along in the agenda. I think the only thing I'd like to mention now is we had there's an international magazine that caters to pilots and executives that we are going to have a feature article run, full page spread. And myself and retired Dr. Ed Miller sat in for the interview. We got a lot of great glossy photos from Pusher. We're looking to get a look at the the final article in mid-November and looking to publish at the very end of November. So it'll put us, it should put us on the map. They wanted to focus on the airport, but also all the amenities that are around here. And yeah, so it'll put a spotlight on us and it will dovetail well with some of the work that Siskiyou Economic Development is doing. That's it for now.
All right, thank you. Council members, are there any questions for City Manager Uhas? All right, seeing none. Peter, Councilmember Arth, I think I'll start with you when we get to Councilmember comments, but do you have a question for City Manager Uhas right now?
No, I just wanted to recognize that the newly appointed sheriff of Siskiyou County is part of our meeting, and I'm appreciative
Correct.
of that. I don't know Sheriff LaRue, but I think if we could move him up, he must have a lot of demands on his time. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I did see Sheriff LaRue and Ben were on here, so I'm going. All right, Ben and Sheriff LaRue, you should be able to speak.
Good evening, everyone. I was just going to hand the mic over to the sheriff. He wanted to greet the council.
Okay, I'm going to try to turn my video on. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Here,
Yes.
I'll stop.
Welcome.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, this has been pretty interesting the last month. So I am your new sheriff. The cool thing is I'm born and raised in Dunsmuir, so that there's a sense of pride being from Dunsmuir. So I think it's kind of cool to be able to come back and be the sheriff. And just a couple of things. I mean, a lot of you know me, some of you don't, but I'm committed to providing the best service we can for Dunsmuir. I still live in Dunsmuir, so that's kind of cool. I don't know when the last time we had a sheriff that lived in Dunsmuir. I think it was back during Cotter, which has been a long time ago. So anyways, I just wanted to have an opportunity. I mean, I don't know what time allows for if you guys have any questions, but I'm hoping when we can get back together, whenever that actually happens, I'd be happy to actually meet with everybody and sort of just discuss the future and see what I can do to improve relationships and just provide, like I said, just the best service we can for Dunsmuir. I want to thank Sergeant Wetstein, who's doing a fantastic job down there for all that he's doing. So yeah, absent that, I just want to say hi and let you know that I'm here, I'm working, and it's been pretty wild just to kind of jump in right in the middle of sort of a term, but I'm excited because there's a lot of work to be done. And again, it's just kind of neat to be from Dunsmuir and to be able to interact with all of you again.
All right, thank you. Council members, do you have any
Question?
questions for Sheriff LaRue? Go ahead, Councilmember Deutsch.
Yes. Sheriff, I just learned that Susan Keeler was your teacher, and that tells me that she must have done a good job, huh? Do we get a good report on that?
Yes, she did. That's very true. I know it's kind of interesting that all the same people are still kind of around, but that is true. Yes, she had a big part today, so that's great.
Question.
Yeah. Thanks, Sheriff. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Keisler, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations. And Ben is doing a great job down here. He's fantastic. You said you was born and raised, and you know, you could join our Rotary. We have a Rotary club here, and Susan's in that. You can see old friends, you know.
How come everybody wants me to join Rotary? What's up with that?
Yeah, just join where you live, you know. Hey, Vince, now that we lost Sheriff Lopi, do we still have any kind of connections, like with the veterans things? Like, because our veterans memorial down there in the cemetery, we're kind of needing a new flag. And he had talked to me about it right before he left, but I was just wondering, Jeremiah, do we have any connections with them through the sheriff's department now, you know, now that you're like the boss?
Yeah, so a good question. So the sheriff's office still has the veterans service underneath us. So yeah, we totally can do that. I'd be happy to look into that.
Could you look into it maybe before next Thursday?
Yes, I can.
I would personally really appreciate that, sir.
Oh yeah, no, that's important.
Thank you.
I'll write it down and get back with you.
And again, congratulations.
Hey, thanks. Well, same to you. I appreciate that.
Councilmember Arth, you have a question?
I do. And one of the things I enjoyed about your predecessor, who also had Dunsmuir roots, was the beautiful relationship between the sheriff's office, the Dunsmuir Community Resource Center, and their outreach to stressed families, veterans, kids. Specifically, as we move forward and you have to manage the jail issue and rehabilitation issues, one of the things we have started is the sheriff's diversion program, where instead of being incarcerated, you find worthy candidates to help trim the trees, pull the brush, help with community related efforts. Do you have any thoughts in that regard?
You know, absolutely. So some of the things that we've been talking, well, at least I have in meetings lately, I mean, there's a lot going on, as you can imagine, but something that's been brought up quite a bit is the sort of our, you know, the inmate population and whatnot. But I mean, in just a little bit, and if you don't know it about me, I'm all in favor of finding better ways, alternative ways to helping people out. And I think that something like that through the diversion is always going to be way better. I mean, we have a jail for a reason, but there's so many more services that can be provided, I feel. So I fully support that and love to hear more about it as time permits.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. We've kind of made the rounds with council members, so I'll just go to Councilmember Bryan. Do you have any comments or questions?
I would just like to welcome our new sheriff to our city council meeting. It was a pleasure to meet you in person a couple weeks ago in Doris, and there was a good Lola meeting for those that couldn't make it. But I'm excited to have you lead our county, and more importantly for us, our town. And look forward to kind of evolving into the new era for Dunsmuir. We're growing as a town, and not so much by population, but by how we reposition ourselves as not a town that used to be a railroad town, but a town that finds its sure footing, in a service, tourist, and technology-based remote industry world. And I look forward to your help and cooperation in kind of building that future. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. It's kind of, again, it's just neat to be from Dunsmuir. So I love Dunsmuir and love the community. So I think we're going to have a good relationship.
Then the other comment would be, I don't know if you've been briefed, but we do have a public safety ad hoc committee that's currently Councilman Keisler and myself, and we're supposed to meet quarterly. So sometime in after the holidays, it'd be good to meet together and talk about all the issues specific to Dunsmuir and law enforcement.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions from our council members, so we'll save you for right now and bring you back later for a little bit more interrogating. But thank you so much for taking the time today, and congratulations on becoming sheriff. And we're very excited to move forward with you and make the community even better. So thank you. All right. So I'm going to go back to staff and member comments. I hit up City Manager Uhas, so I'm going to go back to our council members, and I will start with Councilmember Arth. Do you have any comments for today?
Not surprisingly, Madam Mayor, I have 3 areas to address. The first is to return to the comments of Councilmember Keisler. As far as I know, the city of Dunsmuir has no celebration or memorial scheduled for Veterans Day, the 11th. The newspaper this week had several activities. Some have been canceled, some are going on. But I'm pleased to report that the framed citation honoring Sheriff Lope is complete and ready for presentation. So my pitch to council members Keisler and Deutsch is, even if the entire Veterans Day celebration is the 3 of us and Sheriff Lope Emeritus and Sheriff LaRue active,
Amen.
if we met in the cemetery, presented our resolution to the departing Sheriff Lope, and spent a couple minutes honoring our veterans, is that doable?
I'm
That's
in. I don't know if Lope could make it though, but I'm definitely
I'm just
in.
making comments. Comment number 2 is the city council has to have a discussion around enforcement priorities. That is code enforcement. We all got the letter from Stephen Jarosh with his curb painting issue. I probably had 5 residential members call me or knock on my door, not very happy about a formal letter from the city saying you've parked too far from the curb, your fence wasn't built with a permit, and at the same time, as the public has commented, not doing anything about the shabby buildings downtown. My third comment, Madam Mayor, is I do read the local paper and I have Mount Shasta envy with regard to solar power. The October 21st newspaper had City Manager Bruce Pope of the city of Mount Shasta providing an update regarding the city's solar power project. They have Johnson Controls as the contractor, a plan to lessen the city's carbon imprint, and as right now, Mount Shasta's City Hall, police station, and fire station are running on solar power. The next big movement on solar project is the Corporation Yard, said Pope. They're talking about doing their sewer utility as well. To me, being in the state of California, we will lead the world in renewable energy and energy conservation, likewise broadband, but we got to get going. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll go next to Councilmember Keisler. Do you have any comments for tonight?
Yeah. I'd like to thank everybody that believed in me and supported me. I'm humbled and I'm honored to be chosen for a third term. I want to say congratulations to my fellow council members, Bruce, and our treasurer, Mario. And I'm looking forward to working with you guys in the future. And I really want to thank my wife because she went through this stuff with me. So I got to give her props. I would like to echo a couple things that Peter said. Vets Day. Yes, I'm trying to put together a thing. I'm glad you brought it up. All right, Jeremiah says he'd probably get us a flag for that day. I don't know if Lopi's available. Thank you for having that resolution ready. I'm sure, but we have to coordinate time with other events and other places, but I'm sure we can make it happen. And another echo is, I think we do need to look at the code priorities. Something's wrong because people are running me off the road. They're knocking up my doors at all times. It doesn't matter where I go, stores, it just doesn't matter. So we need to do something because the people's upset. And then if Bruce could help me out, I don't know, I don't remember, but we got pies coming up. The Rotary is going to be having pies for sale for Thanksgiving. So you guys can get a hold of me tomorrow. I'll have all the information on the pies, or you can get a hold of any Rotarian. And we got pies. So. And again, really, thanks to everybody that supported me and believed in me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you and congratulations, Councilmember Keisler. I'll now move over to Councilmember Bryan. Do you have any comments for tonight?
Yes, I've got some brief comments. I'd like to congratulate my colleagues Keisler and Deutsch on their re-election. And I'd also like to congratulate the other candidates putting themselves out there and engaging with the community. It's always an important time when we can exercise our democratic rights in this country. And I think Dunsmuir's democracy is healthy and strong currently. I'd like to just say, heading into the winter, with the recent spikes that have been reported in coronavirus, that now would be a good time for citizens of Dunsmuir to revisit some of the precautions we perhaps took in the spring, but became more lax in the summer as weeks turned into months and there still weren't cases. You know, I know it's inconvenient to say sanitize and wear masks, but this could be the difference between our businesses being open all winter or not. Because if our infection rate climbs too high, regardless of your personal thoughts on the risk of the virus, it will shut down our economy, and that won't help anyone. So I just encourage everyone to take the easy precautions on those first steps in getting in front of this. And if it saves you from getting one flu or cold that you would have otherwise got, then I believe it'll be steps well worth taking, even if it ends up being not as impactful with COVID as we thought. So I'd just like to say that we're getting into winter time and it'll be here before we know it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Bryan. Councilmember Deutsch, do you have any comments for
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, ma'am. First of all, I'd like to, as Dave said, to all the people out there that voted for me, gave me your confidence, I really appreciate it. And I'm going to redouble my effort to make sure that I provide for the citizens of Dunsmuir. Congratulations, obviously, to Big Dave. Third time. That's going to go down in the history of Dunsmuir as one of the few times where we have three-term person. So congratulations to him and to Mario. So moving forward, I do want to point out a few things. On the 18th of November, we're going to be having the What's on Your Plate event, which is when the Resource Center gives out the turkey and/or hams I want to work with the fire chief. We want to see if we could use the fire station for the place for that to happen so that we could have a drive-through process and a place to store in the meantime. So I'll be looking into that, but keep in mind that the turkey giveaway and the ham giveaway will be on Wednesday, the 18th. And then as far as the pies that Dave was mentioned, Rotary has really kind of been strapped because of lack of opportunities for any real fundraising. The big program that Rotary really supports more than anything else is the backpack program for the kids. So that's what they'll be fundraising for, is to provide the backpack program so that kids can on the weekend go home and have food no matter what the situation might be at home. And the way this is going to work is that these will be homemade pies, and they're going to be made to order. So we'll be coming out with the process of how to do that. But the idea would be, you'd say, I'd like to have a cherry pie, and you can choose whether or not you want to have it frozen or already cooked. And on the 25th, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, there will be deliveries made to people. So what you want to do is contact a member of Rotary and get in touch and tell them what kind of pies you want, and they'll make one to your specifications. That's all I have, other than I really do feel a huge amount of concern about the uptick in COVID cases. And I do think that as a city that relies heavily on its restaurants, we need to be extra vigilant, and masks need to be something that we're really careful about, because as Vice Mayor Brian mentioned, it could shut us down if we don't take care of ourselves. So that's all I have. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you, and congratulations, Councilmember Deutsch. I will be
Thank you.
brief. Thank you. I will be brief. I do highly encourage, I know reading the chat, Devin had mentioned something about getting a ticket and is contesting it. Council members and members of the public, if you do feel that a enforcement letter or ticket was made improperly or unfairly, there is an appeals process, and I strongly urge people to utilize that process as we move forward. It's really hard for our city staff and ourselves to learn what's working and what isn't when people talk to individuals and not necessarily staff. So I'd encourage people to do that. As far as renewables, for Councilmember Arth's comment, working at Mount Shasta, I have some information related to that. There is a pretty hefty price tag to the solar panels. It is not, although it is close to a break even, it's not technically a break even program. So there are some kind of hitches to the program, but it is definitely something that we can look into and see if there's a program that fits our needs moving forward as a city, as well as trying to subsidize or assist other members of the public to get solar panels on their homes as well. I do want to put a call out for those, because we are moving into the heater season. If you rely specifically on wood stoves for heating your home as a primary heat source, I strongly urge you to look at the Siskiyou Air Pollution Control District website for Siskiyou County and contact the county regarding the subsidized program for wood stove upgrades. Again, it is for individuals who are lower income who utilize only a wood stove as their primary heating source. So I strongly suggest that you contact that information or contact that department and go and do that, especially getting ready for winter here. I know it was supposed to snow on Friday, and now apparently it might not, but you know how fickle the weather can be this time of year. Just to kind of comment on the Measure H, so it did fail quite well, which is okay. It definitely is something that we need to sit back as a council and start to discuss moving forward. We do still have some budgetary issues that we have to work out in terms of upcoming contract negotiations with the sheriffs, granting programs to community resources. I think the Measure H tax increase was just maybe a little bit too much at a time that we don't have much to give, and that's okay. And we are going to be looking into other avenues to be able to afford the services and continue to do what we need to do for our residents. Finally, it will come up later in our agenda, but I've just been working with city staff on the per capita grant application for the Children's Park, getting that submitted to the state prior to the end of the calendar year. And then thank you to our finance director for letting me know that actually the Prop 68 Round 4 grant has actually been extended to March 21st, 2021. I did take a look and call the state parks department, and they did not receive a significant number of applications, mainly due to individual counties and cities focusing on their COVID response at the time of submission. So there may be an ability for the city to work with the parks district to improve some of those facilities in the next year from that grant program. The Prop 68 competitive grant is a big undertaking, but if we're able to get everybody together and get that information, we can definitely move forward with that. And thank you to our finance director for putting in the putting in the link to the wood smoke fireplace voucher program for those who may need that. Other than that, Councilmember Arth.
Well, I have to comment on the failure of Measure H in Dunsmuir in this fashion. As I read the returns from Siskiyou County, the city of Weed had a more modest tax measure, Measure M. It was not 1.5%, it was simply 0.5%. And if I read the returns correctly, the measure passed 379 votes yes, 377 votes no.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
But maybe
they are still
maybe instructional for us as we go forward.
Yeah, they are still counting ballots in Siskiyou County, to my understanding. But yeah, it's not really the best year for a tax measure increase just due to COVID, and I think a lot of people are stressed financially. So I think it's something to move forward with and understand. There are definitely other opportunities we can discuss and work on. And so we will probably start to focus a lot on that, especially our finance committee. So it's just a learning opportunity, and we move forward and look for other solutions to make sure that we can still provide those services and improve our services. So thank you. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, I'm going to move us on to committee reports. Are there any committee reports tonight? All right, seeing none, I'm
Right.
going
Oh, wait.
Sorry, the finance committee.
All right, go ahead.
Definitely met. So the finance committee met, and the most important item that came up is we finally have kind of a conclusive picture of what has been the issue with our sewer fund recently. And essentially, there were a number in excess of about 20% of accounts for sewer connections that don't actually exist in Dunsmuir. So when that data was put together for projections, back I think 5 years ago is when this began, they were off. As a result, we're going to be 20% or $140,000 down per year based on our 5 year plan. So we're probably, I think the report Pace Engineering put together will be shared with council, and we'll be taking this item up in the near future, possibly in connection with redoing our water 5 year plan. But it's very sad that we got this wrong, because sewer was just put together, 2 years ago, I believe it was finalized. And we've been watching this shortfall, but we finally have the exact reason why. So we may move towards a correction, or given the climate, we could look into how far it would put us behind and how little reserves we'd have if we continue at the current rates. So just so council and the public's aware, it's an issue that's going to be coming to the city in the near future. It's here already. We just need to respond, essentially.
All right, thank you. Council members, any questions for Councilmember Bryan?
Yes,
Seeing
ma'am.
none?
So Matthew.
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Deutsch.
Yeah, Matthew, so does that raise any alarms, or is it just a matter of accounting and long-term impact? Is there any short-term impact?
Yes, the short-term impact would be, at best, it's that our reserves go down to almost nothing. So if anything were to break, we would have to, use general fund money, which we also don't have a great deal of, or, you know, I mean, we struggle to fix a major problem. In a worst case scenario, we could actually fall so low, you know, in terms of our rates relative to our needs, that it could slow down capital improvement grants potentially. So that's a question that PACE is going to get back to us on, whether,
Okay.
of course, that's going to have a worse impact. But at the very least, what should be a $300,000 reserve is going to be less than 60,000 by the end of this year. So, you know, the projections were off by a large amount. PACE did apologize for their share in that error, and they have offered to potentially help us free of charge with a correction study to the study. You know, essentially it's in the study. It was just projecting too many users relative to what we actually have. And that's very upsetting. You know, it seems like, you know, almost laughable that we don't know how many buildings we have in Dunsmuir. But it does get a little bit more complicated, you know, the reasons behind it. Often when someone would move, one account would stay active and another one would be open and wasn't closed. So this is kind of, you know, dusting off the cobwebs of decades of an error here, an error there. And PACE and our city staff didn't at the time, 4 or 5 years ago, didn't fully audit that aspect of it. And so it's come up as an error. So in the immediate future, will sewer not be funded? No, we have enough funds because of our reserves to continue funding. Any capital improvement, any substantial capital improvement is kind of immediately just put on hold. The only reason it's not worse is sewer itself, the department, has been coming in either at budget or a little under budget, much to their credit. So, you know, it's bad news. It means that, you know, what we did 2 years ago didn't solve the problem. We need to revisit it in the near future. To not be all bad news, though, the Finance Committee did review where we're at. We've concluded a full quarter, plus a month now. And general fund, due mostly to you know, activity within the town. You know, we know from earlier that tourism has been strong, but that revenue is not really falling short of prior years thus far. So we're looking to have a decent year based on the projections if this holds, but we are still only 4 months in.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Arth. Councilmember Arth, you have a question in your hand?
Simply to amplify, the Finance Committee earlier this week based their discussions on an excellent memo from Pace Engineering, several pages with charts, and there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's bad news, but I hope that the other 3 members of the council review the memo ASAP and carefully. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions on the Finance Committee report? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move us into approval of the minutes. We have on the table today the City Council regular meeting minutes for October 15th, 2020. Is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
to approve the minutes.
Councilmember Arth, did you have a discussion or would you like to make the motion?
well, I have no problem with the minutes, but I wanted to see as far as what's on the agenda and what's not on the agenda in terms of the visioning and priorities for the upcoming years, page 5 and 6. It says, Mayor Luque, we propose we keep the data we have, come back with a new plan for engagement and visioning, can have that meeting by second meeting in November. Are we still on track for this coming back to the agenda, our second meeting?
We should be able to, yes.
Thank you. I'm happy to
All right,
second the meeting.
Okay, Councilmember Keisler has motioned to approve the minutes and there's a second by Councilmember Arth. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch,
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler,
Aye.
Councilmember Arth,
Aye.
and myself as an aye. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, moving into consent agenda. We have 2 items tonight. We have consent agenda item A, check register for October 10th through October 30th, 2020. and a resolution 2020-23 in support of the acceptance of volunteer fire assistance grant. Is there any discussion?
Make a motion to
I
adopt.
move we adopt the consent agenda.
Would you like to second, Councilmember Keisler?
Sure.
Okay, I'll give it to Councilmember Deutsch, second by Councilmember Keisler. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch,
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler.
Heck yeah, this is a good one.
All right, Councilmember Arth.
Aye.
Myself is an aye. The consent agenda items A and B are approved. We'll move into, oh, sorry, this is from the last meeting, public hearings. We do not have any public hearings on the agenda, and I will double check that really quick. We do not have any public hearings on the agenda. And I got myself stuck in the PDF viewer. Sorry, give me 1 second. All right, there we go. Thank you for your patience. All right, we have no public hearings for tonight, so we'll move into old business, and we have 4 items old business. First is the sale of Shearer Avenue parcel, and I will unmute City Manager Uhas and Contract Planner Rico Tinsman, because I know you guys have a couple of items for coming up here.
Okay, first, the sale of a Shearer Avenue parcel. For some reason, my staff report didn't make it in here, but this is an item that was brought before council about a month and a half ago. We have a parcel that's about 10 feet wide between, 2 parcels that are owned by the same person. We own the piece in the middle. It has access to the river, and they originally offered $8,500 for this thin parcel that no one would ever mistake for fishing access. And in the middle of getting this to council last time, wanted to lower the price. They've come around. They want to pay the full $8,500. If you may recall that in the original presentation, there's still a 10-foot easement along the riverbank, so people that are waiting or wanting to walk along that bank are still able to do that. And it was appraised at less than $5,000, so I think personally it's a pretty good deal for the city. So wanted to put that out there.
All right, are there any questions for City Manager Uhas?
Yes, I've intended since then to go see this property in person. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do so, but I just wanted to verify. You have been there in person and inspected it, correct?
Yeah, and I apologize for whatever reason the staff report not getting in there. I took pictures of it, and you would think, looking at it, that it's all one contiguous parcel.
Well, especially the river part. Have they already built up into our land essentially? Because no one's been there to stop them. Either part.
No.
Excuse me. I have a little knowledge. I personally worked on both properties, and in my personal opinion, I think it's beneficial to the city to get rid of this property. One, we're getting more than it's worth, and two, if I lived at the property, if I lived either house, and I had people walking down the site to go to that little strip of land that's coming between the 2 pieces of property, that somebody could, I don't know, get shot, that if you didn't know. So I think selling that is a good thing. Besides, we got more money than it's worth.
So right now we're just in clarifying questions, but thank you, Councilmember Keisler, for the history on the project. Councilmember Arth, do you have a question?
Yes, I've never seen the appraisal. I don't know if it's public or private, but who did the appraisal and what were the major findings leading to its low valuation?
It was a verbal, and I'm trying to.
Wait. So nobody paid for it?
No, it was through Alpine Realty. It's really literally a 10-foot wide strip.
It was a broker price opinion, not an appraisal.
Right, exactly.
Okay, well so an actual appraisal report doesn't exist on the.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions before I move into public comment? All right, seeing none, I'm going to open this up for public comment. Members of the public, this is your time to have 3 minutes to discuss the proposal. Again, you can either let me know in the chat that you'd like to make a public comment, or you can raise your hand in the participant section. If you are on the phone, you can hit *9, and that will raise your hand, and I can walk you through how to unmute yourself. No takers? All right, I'm going to close the public comment and move us into discussion. Councilmember Keisler, I believe you had started our discussion with being in favor of moving forward with the parcel sale. Would you like to add anything else?
No, just if you guys think about it, it's basically 2 driveways next to each other, and a house to the north at one driveway and a house to the south on the other driveway. And there's a little sliver of easement is what it's called to get to that. And if you were walking by, and let's say that the people had cars out there, if people walking by and scratches the cars going to that little strip of land, is the city responsible or reliable? And if I own, like I said, if I own one of those pieces of property, I wouldn't want people walking all up and down, going back down there for just a little spot there. It's not really worth it. You got better spot from the other side. I mean, as far as fishing access, I know that personally, but this is a good deal, you guys. We really, it's beneficial all the way around.
All right, thank you. Council members, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, does anyone wish to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I make the motion that we sell the property as laid out.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion by Councilmember Deutsch, seconded by Councilmember Keisler. Is there any discussion on the motion to sell the property as prescribed by City Manager Uhas?
Should I, Madam Mayor? Bruce?
Yes.
The motion has verbiage. I think I'd like Bruce to retract so that we can make the appropriate motion.
Okay, I'll retract.
City Manager.
Okay.
Okay, City Manager Uhas, could you? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Keisler.
I'd like to make the motion of the sale of the parcel number 058-221-060 for $8,250 and the associated cost of the transfer of the parcel.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Councilmember Keisler, seconded by Councilmember Deutsch. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Just a quick question for Todd. Is there any other relevant terms in the offer?
So one correction, it's he went up to 8,500, and that he will cover all the transfer costs.
8,500 as amended.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the motion at hand?
Yeah, just when is this supposed to close? I mean, just to be obvious, but is it a short-term thing?
He wants to move on it as quickly as possible. It just was pending the outcome of this.
Okay. And it's not to any assigns, it's just to this particular, just this particular individual?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch?
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan?
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler?
Aye.
Councilmember Arth?
Abstain?
All right. I believe with the new regulations, you do have to give a reason for why you're abstaining.
The reason is that I was going to go with the vice mayor and actually view the parcel so that I could be more informed as to the appropriate value, and we didn't get to do that. Anything that fronts the upper Sacramento River, I think, has exceptional value. So I'm not comfortable with the appraisal process, and therefore I'm abstaining.
And a correction, I don't believe we need to do that for abstentions. I think that's just for recusals.
Okay, thank you. It is still nice to understand the abstention.
Definitely.
All right, thank you. And then I'll vote aye, so the motion carries. And we will now move on to item B of old business, which is an update on Children's Park project.
Great. So Mayor Lucchese mentioned, working on the Prop 68 grant. As you may recall, we were looking at two scenarios. One is potentially purchasing the half of the park that's owned by the Benson family. If we could come to an agreement on a price, and with Prop 68 funding, we can't pay over what the appraised value is. So went out, finally found a commercial appraiser. He came in at, or the property came in at 75,000. Have met with Gary Benson, and we're at a place that he won't take less than 80,000, but we're right in the ballpark. So I think we can move forward with keeping the playground where it is. In the meantime, I've had playground folks out at the site, and they are going to have a cost estimate for expanding the footprint of the playground and replacing all the equipment out there on Friday, and it will all come under the grant amount that we have got coming to us. So in other words, we'll be able to keep the children's park in the same spot with new equipment.
We have some handicap equipment coming?
Coming.
Yep. That's a contingency of the grant, is that any purchase of equipment or park facilities or supporting facilities must be ADA compliant.
That's so cool.
Are there any questions for City
excited.
Manager Uhas?
I'd just like to,
Any questions?
no, just share my gratitude. Todd, this has been a real issue for Dunsmuir, just bleeding money without any resolution for a long time. So I'd like to thank you, but also thank Madam Mayor for spearheading this grant process.
Definitely.
Good job.
Thank you. All right, seeing no questions, I will open this up for public comment. Would anyone like to make a public comment on the Children's Park project? All right, I do have one taker, Tim Holt. Should be able to unmute yourself. Oh. Let's try that again, Tim. Okay, Tim, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, I just wanted to commend city manager and the city for managing to find a way to keep the children's park where it is now. I know that for a while that was in doubt, and so that's all I want to say. Congratulations on doing that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any other public comments related to the Children's Park project? Again, if you are on the phone and do not have a computer, you can hit *9 to raise your hand. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comment and move us into discussion. Is there any additional discussion from the council members related to the appraisal, the possible sale or the possible purchase of that property, or the per capita grant and the equipment? All right, seeing none, I do need for the grant, it does look better if we make a motion to move forward with the purchase of that property at the $80,000 mark, and that we would be willing to pay the difference on that. So if someone could make a motion, that would be very helpful for the grant narrative.
Madam Mayor?
I'll make that motion.
I have a,
Councilmember Bryan had a question or a comment first.
yeah, I thought we had been told beforehand that we didn't have the option of paying the difference. I distinctly remember that. If that's not true, that's fine. But Todd, do you remember anything like that tied to this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Sorry, to clarify, the grant will pay for the appraisal value, and then the city itself would have to pick up the difference.
Yes.
Okay, that is allowed. Okay.
But we as a council have to be comfortable with picking up the $5,000 difference.
Okay. Then, Madam Mayor, I so move that we instruct city manager to, in conjunction with this grant, purchase the property for $80,000.
Right.
I second.
Is there a second? All right,
I second.
Councilmember Keisler, thank you. Councilmember Bryan motion, Councilmember Keisler second. Any discussion on the motion at hand?
Just
Seeing
to
none, we'll-
clarify real quick, are we talking about the park and the lawn next to it?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so there'll be no Dunsmuir Avenue frontage that Benson owns after this. It'll go up to the back fence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Seeing no other discussion, we'll move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch,
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler,
Aye.
Councilmember Arth.
Well, just a procedural question to the presiding officer. We went from an update to now an action item where we're voting. Is this okay?
Yeah, it is noticed as an action item, even though it says update. And the motion that we're doing right now is not necessarily legally binding. I just want to make sure that we have a motion that we're comfortable moving forward with the purchase of that property at $80,000, as long as we get the grant to cover the appraisal value. I just would like that for the grant narrative. The Prop 68 funders would like to see that we're committed to moving forward with that purchase when we go for that grant.
If you
So
think
we
the
will
motion's
probably-
appropriate, I'll vote aye.
All right, thank you. We will bring back a formal acceptance for the council, and based on the voting as aye, we'll probably put it on the consent agenda with the formal paperwork. So, and I'm also an aye, so this, yeah, thank you. Any other questions or items for the Children's Park project?
I'd just like to make sure that we get the word out on this. I know Shireen is on. I just hope we get a nice story on the fact that we're going to be able to keep the children's park where it is.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what
let's get the grant. Let's get the grant first. How about that? Let's get that paperwork in.
that'll help. We'll get
Okay.
the the proposed price and what this will look like. It's due tomorrow. So we'll have some glossies of what this will look like, and we'll be able to figure out what we want, what we like, what we don't like, what we'd like to change, that kind of stuff. So we'll have something that we can put out if we get them.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of small preliminary steps we have to go through to make sure that the council's comfortable moving forward, because we needed to know, for example, if the council was not comfortable moving forward with the purchase of the property, we would have to adjust the project in the grant proposal. So having a couple of these smaller steps leading up to the larger application is good for us, so that we understand what the intent and direction of the council. So, but thank you. Yeah, we will definitely have lots of photos and get the word out once we are officially good to go. So thank you. So I will move us on to item C of our old business, which is an update on the Mossbury Trail project. City Manager Uhas.
Okay, so as many of you know, that we were having a real difficult time getting UP to talk to us for a while. And, it seems like we've made a breakthrough. Whenever I call UP, I get the folks in Sacramento and the folks that I need to talk to in the engineering department. I've also been talking to LaMalfa's office and got LaMalfa to actually speak to the CEO of UP in DC, Lance Fritz, and he says we're too early in the process to come to something concrete. One of the issues that were, what I wanted from Malfa and from the CEO is to figure out, can we get a lease that we can live with, like $1 a year? And I've been told by the folks in Sacramento, no way, they don't do those things anymore. But the word we got is it's too early, but yes, that's a real possibility. But we raised the issue that first we need to get 30% drawings into the structural engineering folks at UP, which we're working on and is due very soon. And this is something that was new to me, but there are concerns that UP raised in terms of potentially being sued by the St. Germain Foundation, that that they own the property between the sandbar up to where UP owns the portion of the tracks. But we can clearly demonstrate that we have a prescriptive easement here, and I don't think John Kenny doesn't think we're going to have any issue arguing that point. So one of the things we're also working with is working with CDFW on what's called a categorical exclusion, which will allow us to avoid a challenge under CEQA by St. Germain, which could really gum up the works for a very long time, and we're likely to get that. And that's it, other than I'm in contact with the Malfa's office at least once a week and with the UP several times a week, and we really seem to be gaining momentum, including UP contacting us about where our drawings are, which is new because we couldn't get them to pick up the phone 6 months ago. So that's where we are on Mossbury Trail.
Councilmember Arth, you have a question.
Well, yes, and actually it rolls back to our economic support for the Siskiyou County Economic Development Council. We know the Mossbury Trail is a huge asset. It's hugely popular. Can we say with any level of confidence the trail will be open in 2021, or we don't know?
We don't know.
Our ultimate hope and goal was to have it open in 2021, and that's what we're communicating to UP as our intent, and communicating with other elected officials as our intent. The realistic timeline may be longer than that, but I don't want to say that it's going to be longer, because then it's going to be. So I mean, our complete hope and our complete hope and intent is to have it done in 2021, with obvious caveats of we will need some substantial improvements to the parking situation up top, which may take a little bit longer, but we are definitely in a position to start moving this thing forward in a very meaningful way, and it has been. So that's good. So I think the biggest thing we're doing is just keeping pressure on the project to keep moving forward.
So to quote,
and as we look forward, we have a management problem. The city, the county, the sheriff's office, if we have to endure another summer of 2021 with people illegally going up to Mossbury Falls, we have to shift the liability to Union Pacific and not the city. It's dangerous, the behavior is bad, and I think more than ever in the COVID crisis era, we have to manage this aggressively. Thank you.
So I would add two things. To quote everybody's favorite defense secretary, there are two unknown knowns. Is that we don't know what St. Germain is going to do. And two, we don't know if we're going to get a favorable lease rate. And those are the two things we just need to keep working at it. And I agree, we'd like to keep to 2021, and let's hope we can do it.
All right, any
Madam
other
Mayor?
questions before? Go ahead, Councilmember Deutsch.
Thank you. How can we officially kick the process in gear to get the parking situation looked into. I know we keep saying we will, but I think this is the time to form some sort of group that can start looking at how that would take place, where the parking would be, how we'd get money for it, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it really just comes down to money. I have talked to Paul at Pace, and they would be willing to assist with some site planning on that. And obviously, we would probably include our contract planner, or we would, in a favorable world, we would probably go for a grant application to hire an additional consultant to help with that site and park planning. Basically, it's looking for grant opportunities for that. That's the biggest issue is funding. Because we will have to do engineering, it will have to look at quite a few things. So I would not encourage a committee of the city at this point, because it's pretty straightforward what needs to happen. We just need to get the funding to do the preliminary site planning and engineering for those, and then the construction.
Okay.
So
thank you.
The parking meters go in Northtown for where we can make money.
Yeah. All right. Are there any questions before I open up public comment on this item? Seeing none, would anyone in the public like to comment on the update on the Mossbury Trail project? Tim Holt.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep, go ahead.
So on the subject of parking you just raised, I want to throw this out, and it's been brought up before, but and that's the idea of a shuttle from downtown. It could possibly stop at, some of the motels, but the advantage to that is, for one thing, it would encourage people to visit our downtown, because then you can catch a ride from there to Mossbury. So I just wanted to throw that out for down the road. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there any public comment on the update on the Mossbury Trail project? Again, *9 if you're on the phone, or let me know in the chat function. All right, I don't see any other public comments. Is there any other discussion on this item? I don't believe any motion is being requested of us tonight.
Madam Mayor, if I could, I'd just like to respond to Tim. Thank you. I'd just like to respond to Tim and point out that the Local Transportation Commission, the LTC, and this is something I've been pushing, and it looks like it's going to come to fruition, would move over to a new model, which would give each of the cities in the southern area down here a shuttle that would run up and down and connect up with the interstate for a express bus. But the idea would be, if this goes through like it looks like it might, we would be able to have a shuttle in Dunsmuir that would run up and down Dunsmuir Avenue and wherever else throughout the day. So that would definitely help that out.
All right, thank you. Is there any other discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll move into item D in old business, which is an update on the Butterfly Bridge project.
Okay, so the project's kicked off. It's in preliminary engineering. We had a crew out last week doing borings out at the bridge, and we had to close down that bridge. So we're looking for 30% design drawings for city review coming in December. We're looking at hopefully NEPA coming in the summer of 2021. Getting permits for all of our permits in around February of 2022, going out to what's called PS&E. It's basically it's plan specifications, and engineering is really the term, and which is the final stage before it goes to Mylars and it's bid. And we're shooting for summer 2022 construction.
All right, any questions from council members? Is this a 100% grant, or is there a match to this?
100%.
Okay, thank you. And who did we get it from in terms of the funding agency?
Good question. I don't remember offhand. I'm having a brain fart.
I'm assuming if it's NEPA that it's a federal.
I thought it was USDA, but I could be.
Okay. I feel like that sounds about right. I was
That's
just
what
curious.
I thought too.
Okay. All right. Seeing no. Oh, Caltrans.
Caltrans, right.
Blake. There we go. It must be from a federal source, and Caltrans is just doling it out because NEPA is typically not needed for a Caltrans one, but I could be wrong there. Yeah. Okay, great. Blake's saying feds probably for the money, but Caltrans is the lead agency helping us out there. Great. All right. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll move into public comment. Are there any public comments on the Butterfly Bridge project and the update we just got? Seeing none, I'll move us into discussion. Any other discussion, council members, or are we good to move on from this item?
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you, City Manager Uhas, for the update on the various projects we have going on. It's sometimes we forget some of these longer term projects that take quite a bit of our effort, but we don't talk about it as much. So thank you. All right, I'm going to move us into new business. And the first off is item A, which is a briefing on the short-term rental study. Comments from Planning Commission and formation of an ad hoc committee seeking 2 council member volunteers. City Manager Uhas or City Planner Tinsman, would you like to take this?
Sure, I'll grab it. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So good evening, everyone. I'm sorry, I've been sitting here quietly so long that I have to get my voice ready again. So at the direction of the council, Planning Commission workshop was held on October 14th to discuss the short-term rentals and their potential impact on long-term housing availability. To assist the commission in its review, staff prepared an inventory of short-term rentals operating in the city, an analysis of population and housing over the past 20 years, and draft short-term rental regulations for discussion. This information was shared with the council on October 13th and posted to the city's website. At the workshop, issues discussed included second homeowners, integrity of the state's housing data, short-term rentals contribution to TOT, government overregulation, public nuisances, fire hazards, and community fabric. Following the workshop and further discussion by the Planning Commission, the Commission voted unanimously to recommend to the council that the city create an ad hoc committee to develop short-term rental recommendations. In particular, the Planning Commission recommended that the ad hoc committee be formed to review and refine the draft short-term rental regulations, as well as more broadly consider the nuisances associated with them. The Planning Commission also recommended the ad hoc committee be comprised of members of the City Council, Planning Commission, and public. As such, staff is recommending that a 7-person body be established that is comprised of 2 planning commissioners, 2 city council members, 2 members of the public, and the city manager. Planning staff would facilitate meetings and prepare the information for discussion, but would not be a member. As noted in the council staff report, I've already reached out to a few individuals regarding their willingness to participate on the ad hoc committee. These are members of the public who participated in the workshop, who represent differing points of view, and who appear to be thoughtful in their communication. If the council be approving the formation of a short-term rental ad hoc committee, there is a suggested motion on page 2 of the staff report. However, in addition to conveying the Planning Commission's recommendation regarding formation of the committee, I'm also seeking 2 volunteers for the council, from the council for the committee. I don't anticipate that the task will require a significant amount of time, likely no more than 3 meetings, with each meeting limited to no more than 2 hours. So with that, please consider both the request and your availability and let me know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for our contract planner, Rico Tinsman?
I have one.
Yes, I have a question.
I'm going to go with Councilmember Arth and then Councilmember Deutsch. So go ahead, Councilmember Arth.
Well, I guess to City Planner Tinsman or the staff, is the Dunsmuir Hotel operated as a hotel or is it operated as a short-term rental entity?
I believe that's a better question for Todd. We've discussed this before, but it was my understanding that they have somebody there to work with guests when they arrive, but I've never been there, so I'm not sure.
So I can add, they part of this study, we looked at advertising for short-term rentals, and I believe there are 8 units in the Dunsmuir Hotel that are being advertised under, as short-term rentals and such. The company is taking out, their fees to be paid to the city right up front. So yeah, we're getting money from those 8 units.
Is there a definition that controls this, or is it just kind of the option of the property owner?
So it's they're signed up with Airbnb for those 8 rentals.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, just for clarification, are we talking about the Mossbury Hotel or the Dunsmuir Hotel?
Dunsmuir Hotel.
Dunsmuir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Deutsch, you had a question.
Yes, I did. So what I'm wondering is, Rico, could you give us just a general sense of what the discussion was like? What did you come away with after the Planning Commission meeting?
Well, so first of all, thank you. I believe you were there, so correct me if I'm mistaken. But my understanding of the issue was that we talked about largely the affordability of homes in Dunsmuir relative to the Bay Area, and how we've consistently had a high vacancy rate in Dunsmuir over the past 20 years. I think it's been as low as 28% and is currently around 30.5%, if I recall correctly. And whether or not the short rentals that we have, really, whether they're individuals that are, or businesses that are purchasing these properties as investments, or if they're more second dwelling unit owners, or not second dwelling unit owners, but second homeowners who are using the Airbnb process to help pay down their mortgage. So that's one thing we talked about. We also talked about whether or not, frankly, this is good for the community, through whether there's nuisances of noise or fire, whether garbage, through bears getting the garbage before it's picked up on Monday morning, or wherever you are wherever you are in the community. And ultimately that, the regulations are appropriate. It would be likely appropriate to have regulations to address these nuisances, whether they are regulations specific to short-term rentals to address these nuisances, or whether they need to be looked at more broadly. That's something that the ad hoc committee will need to be tasked with. In addition, we looked at, now I'm forgetting everything that we talked about. I'm sorry, Bruce, if you want to chime in, please go right ahead.
No, it sounds like you've done a pretty good job there. The one thing that I just noticed was the idea that there were people that were simply focusing on the lack of housing, and other people, it seemed, were focusing on the value of having these tourists here. So there is that kind of a trade-off, right?
Yeah, thank you. And that's one of the issues is, from my perspective, having looked at this, when you actually get down to the numbers, when you look at, particularly if you exclude commercial properties where hotels, motels, and the like are allowed by right, this does not seem to be a significant issue at present. That's all I can say at present, which is why, when I looked at this, when I looked at the inventory, I didn't suggest a cap, although that's certainly something that will be discussed. Sort of a limit on short-term rentals when we have the ad hoc committee, if that's the direction the council moves. But when we get down to, I think of something like 38 short-term rentals on 36 or 37 unique residential properties. So it's, from my perspective, it's not really an issue of a shortage due to short-term rentals. Really, our shortage is due to our desirability of homes in Dunsmuir as vacation homes, and it has always been that case.
Yeah,
I think the solution, frankly, with regard to the concerns of the community, is likely to look at other means of encouraging affordable housing through redevelopment, increased density standards to encourage redevelopment, and things that we'll be looking at with a comprehensive zoning code update in the coming months.
Thank you.
I have a comment. Given the zoning code update, would it in your opinion, be premature to get too much work into, say, having regulations that may interact with zoning until we have that corrected?
No, I think that this is frankly an appropriate discussion, particularly in light of community concern. If I don't know if you've had an opportunity to review the draft regulations, but there's certainly nothing in there that is terribly onerous, to be quite honest. I think it's more just common sense regulations to ensure land use compatibility and public health and safety.
Yeah, the report was more framed that, the perception is that there are a lot more short-term rentals out there than there actually are in, maybe there are illegal rentals, who knows? But the bigger issue is just the behavior of people using these short-term rentals. And the proposed regulations that are in this report would really clamp down on a lot of this stuff. And I think that will help to alleviate a lot of the concerns. It's not going to solve all of it, but that's why we formed this committee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems like one of the things that would be useful, I was just going to ask if I could, wouldn't it be useful then to communicate this to the people so that they understand, the numbers and the fact that ultimately it looks like the vacation homes are what eat more into our housing than anything else. Second homes, I should say, second homes.
I agree. That is the message, and I'm hoping that information, when people pull up the staff report, are aware. I think obviously it's the city council probably gets the most citizen concerns directed towards it. So I would hope that you all have take the time. Please do look through the short-term rental staff report that I prepared for the Planning Commission. If you have any questions or concerns about what's in that report, please feel free to contact me. But I think familiarizing yourself with the information, and when you get these concerns, letting the public know that this information is available on the city's website, and that we are looking at it, and we will be looking at it if that's the direction the council wishes to go in the coming months.
All right. Are there any other clarifying questions before I move into public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll open the public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment on the short-term rental study, comments from Planning Commission, and possible formation of an ad hoc committee? And we do have Devin Warner.
Hi, people.
Go ahead, Devin.
Hi, people. Devin Warner again, both as Devin, the ordinary citizen, and also planning commissioner. And I have to make my apologies first to Rico, because I missed the presentation, not because of lack of interest, but just because of mental incapacity. As you all know, I'm heavily medicated these days, and sometimes the brain just isn't working for me. So my first question to Rico is that, did you happen to record that? I would love to see the presentation, even though I didn't get to participate.
Yes, it's on the city's website. You can pull up the
Okay.
recording of the Zoom meeting.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to pull that up and look at it. As you know, I'm quite interested in this. And as a planning commissioner, I have to say I was a little disappointed that very few of the members of the public that took an interest in this issue actually showed up at the Planning Commission meeting. Really, most of the public that showed up were Airbnb owners, and except for one couple down on River Avenue who had some very valid concerns, and they're the same concerns that I hear other people talking about, but they didn't show up at the meeting. So, which brings me back to my original point, is I'd like to see a graphical calendar on the website, because people just aren't sophisticated enough to remember, that the planning meeting is the second Wednesday of the month, and that the city council meetings are first and third Thursdays. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that I think the issue is important, and I feel like it needs to be addressed before it becomes truly urgent. And I appreciate the city staff and what you've put into this. And I do want to continue to participate as a commissioner. And of course, I'd be willing to do the ad hoc committee, but can't really acquit myself very well for my lapses lately, but anyway, I just want to put that out there. Thank you, people. And I will look that up, Rico. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Are there any other public comments related to this item? Again, you can use the chat or you can raise your hand. And again, if you're on the phone, you can hit *9. All right, I don't see any other public comments, so I'm going to close the public comment and move into discussion. Council members, I believe there's 2 items in particular tonight that we can make a decision on. First is if we would like to form an ad hoc committee. The second would be is if we would like to appoint any members from the council to that ad hoc committee tonight. We don't have, if we do move forward with the ad hoc committee, we don't have to appoint tonight. We could do that at the next meeting and give people some time to think about it. But we'll start with the topic of forming an ad hoc committee related to short-term rentals. Would anyone like to lead us off?
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilmember Keisler.
there's a motion that could be made where it leaves it up for 2 city council members would be volunteers. I'd like to be on that. Could I make a motion and hear it out?
Let me just ask for a little bit more discussion and then you could make the motion.
Okay,
if that's okay.
go. All right.
Council members, is there any discussion on the formation of an ad hoc committee?
Yes, I guess.
I'm for it.
I would like to say
Okay,
that.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilmember Bryan.
Certainly for revisiting any regulations we have concerning short-term rentals. The larger issue for me that I think it sounds like isn't going to be solved by this is engaging with our housing shortage, which is a problem for all of California, certainly all of South Siskiyou County, and that includes Dunsmuir. But I was just wondering, city staff-wise, whether, I mean, there's a lot going on with the city, whether this is the correct time to move in that direction. And I guess I'd just like to hear from city manager what he thinks in terms of best use of city staff time, most importantly, his own.
You're right. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I think that this is raised as such an important issue. I don't think we can make an excuse and not find the time.
I have a suggestion.
Just a second. I'm going to go back to Councilmember Bryan to have him finish his thought,
I'll
and then
finish
go
up.
to Councilmember,
You're right.
and then go to Councilmember Arth, who has his hand up. So, Councilmember Bryan,
Okay.
please continue.
Yeah, I guess I just finished my thoughts with. I think it's important that we come up with the best equitable regulations, because there's a certain, there's a financial interest to the city. There's a lot going on here, and it looks like we're not looking to our regulations to solve the long-term housing shortage. I wish actually there is something we could do to fix that in the immediate future. If that's not what we're going to be looking at, in the interest of staff having a lot that they're doing, maybe we make this kind of a paced year-long process to come up with what our direction is going to do. Go slow but get it right.
If I may, can I make a suggestion? I don't know who's read the report that was put together for this, but it's really well written, and it has a lot of proposed regulations in it that if we get buy-off from an ad hoc group, I think we can kind of take them out of the box and use them.
Okay. I did read the report. It was excellent, Rico.
Yes.
Thank you for all the preparation.
All right, I'm going to go over to Councilmember Arth, and then Councilmember Deutsch, and then Keisler. Go ahead,
Well,
Councilmember
Madam
Arth.
Mayor, procedurally, I'm very comfortable with the staff's recommended motion, even though it comes in 2 parts. So would you prefer 2 motions or the consolidated staff recommended motion?
I think if two members of council tonight would like to volunteer to be on the ad hoc, we could do a consolidated motion with both items.
Well, no, the
I think
first motion is to form the committee. The second motion is the composition of the committee. And then we
Oh,
move
I
on
understand.
to selecting members.
I think both are up for discussion. I think eventually it sounded like Councilmember Keisler wanted to make a motion, which we will get to him after we get.
If Peter wants to, on page 20, the recommended motion is the perfect wording.
I agree.
If Peter wants
Okay.
to make that motion, I'll second it.
Okay, awesome. I'm just going to go to Councilmember Deutsch, and then I'll come back to you two, and then we can move forward. So Councilmember Deutsch, really quick, go ahead.
Well, thank you, ma'am. The one thing I just keep thinking here is that we're focusing and have been focusing on short-term rentals with the idea in mind that that was somehow, if we solve that problem, it was going to solve our housing problem. Suppose we looked at this ad hoc committee not to be specifically just short-term rental, but to look at housing in general, and this could be a part of it. So that we could be saying that we have a group that's trying to come up with a larger look at what the housing situation is and what larger solutions might be in play.
So if I can put my 2 cents in on this one, we've got two concurrent processes that we've got the SB2 funding and the work that Rico's doing on, what we can do in changing zoning and looking at additional housing. And the short-term rental, while they are related, I think it becomes such a broad topic that we might devolve in the discussions. I would prefer to keep them separate or to bring them together later on in the process.
Okay.
This is the purpose of more broadly considering the nuisance associated with short-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just,
I agree with Councilmember Keisler and City Manager Uhas. I think there's a lot, at least for discussion with residents that I have, is people are less, again, these are the ones who I've talked to, people are more concerned with some of the parking nuisances and some of the issues associated with short-term rentals rather than having more long-term rentals. Yes, we do need more. But I think in terms of short-term rentals, there's a bigger concern about nuisance. So I would agree.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Okay, Councilmember Arth and Councilmember Keisler, would you like to make a motion?
Go for it, Pete.
Well, Madam Mayor, do you want me to read the recommended motion or simply say that is the motion?
I'm getting a sense that the council is in favor of the motion that's recommended. And again, once you make the motion in a second, someone could dissent and we can discuss as well. So I would recommend doing the motion that we have.
Do you want me to read it or can I just adopt it?
No, please read it for the record, just so that we can make sure everybody knows what's going on.
I move that we approve the formation of a short-term rentals ad hoc committee for the purpose of reviewing and refining the draft short-term rental regulations developed by staff and for the purposes of more broadly considering the nuisances associated with short-term rentals and possible solutions for addressing these nuisances community-wide. I further move that the short-term rentals ad hoc committee be comprised of 2 planning commissioners, 2 city council members, 2 members of the public, and the city manager. Thank you.
I second that motion.
All right, motion by Councilmember R, seconded by Councilmember Keisler. Is there a discussion on the motion at hand?
Other than
my only added comments sort of echo those of the vice mayor. Whatever we're trying to do as a council, we are greatly benefited by the city manager, the city planner, a more active planning commissioner. My brother has lived for a long, long time in the community of Truckee, so I'm fairly familiar with the Lake Tahoe area. And the city of South Lake Tahoe said, forget it. The people voted and said no more short-term rentals. So in the months ahead, more and more people are going to be buying second homes or even first homes in Dunsmuir, and they're going to be renting them out. And we advantage ourselves by being ahead of this issue rather than waiting for the complaints to build up. So good job to everybody.
Right. Any other discussion on the motion at hand? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch,
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler,
Aye.
Councilmember Arth,
Aye.
and myself as an aye. Motion carries. Did we want to appoint two council members at this meeting? I know Councilmember Keisler has voiced an interest. Are there any other takers tonight? We can also continue.
Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
I would be interested as well, but I'm fine with waiting until next time. If other people would like to, that's fine.
Councilmember Arth and Councilmember Deutsch, would you entertain appointing Councilmember Keisler and Bryan as our representatives for this?
I am
I'd
specifically.
be fine. I just don't know if, I was going to say, I'd be fine with that. I just want to see how, yeah, okay, that's good. That's what I wanted to know. I'm fine with that.
Councilmember Arth, could you say that again?
I am not interested, thank you.
Okay.
And that's what I heard, and so that's what I'm saying. I'm fine with Bryan and Keisler.
Okay, would you like to make that motion?
I move that we appoint Vice Mayor Bryan and Councilmember Keisler to the ad hoc short-term rental study committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Deutsch, seconded by Councilmember Arth. Gentlemen, are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, great. Move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch,
Aye.
Councilmember Arth,
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan,
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler,
Aye.
and myself as an aye. So we'll have you two appointed, and you can work with the city planner to move forward with that. So, gentlemen, thank you very much on this item. And I believe,
Madam Mayor,
sorry, go ahead.
is the understanding that the planning commission picks the two planning commissioners, or do we do that?
No, I would like the planning commissioners to have a discussion and appoint within themselves.
I agree.
Unless it comes down to a knife fight, and then we have to make a decision. You were going to say something, Rico?
Madam Mayor? Yeah. How do you feel about the members of the public being appointed?
I would like to at least put out, a request for members of the public first to see who all would be interested. So if we could maybe do something similar to our Brown Act committees where we put something in the paper for 2 or 3 weeks and then close that out. I'd like to give people an opportunity to apply for that if they'd like.
Okay, thank you. Who would you like to, once they've applied, how would you like to go about appointing them to the committee?
I think bring them back to a council meeting.
Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, we want one for one, one on each side, a pro and a con.
Preferably, yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other items that need to be discussed for the short-term rental? All right, seeing none, we'll move into our last piece of new business, which is an out-of-area service agreement, proposed resolution 2020-22.
So, thank you. So a landowner petition has been received from Emmanuel Ladsu requesting that the city extend water and wastewater service outside city limits to 941 South First Street. The property in question is comprised of 2 separate legal parcels consisting of APNs 030-380-380 and -390. And Mr. Ladsu is requesting services to both. Aside from 2 small outbuildings, the 2 parcels are presently undeveloped. However, despite the lack of structural improvements on the project site, it's important to note that the water and wastewater connections are already in place and were paid for by the prior property owner more than 15 years ago. All that remains from the city's perspective is installation of water meters and for Mr. Ladsu to establish an account for services. However, prior to installation of water meters and the extension of services to Mr. Ladsu, the city must apply to and obtain approval from Siskiyou LAFCO for an out-of-area service agreement. Further, the city's application to LAFCO must include a resolution adopted by the council agreeing to the provision of services. Accordingly, a resolution to this effect is included as an attachment to the council's staff report. With regard to Siskiyou, because the project is located outside city limits, Siskiyou LAFCO is the lead agency and the city is considered a responsible agency. That said, it's anticipated that LAFCO will determine the out-of-area service agreement to be exempt from Siskiyou under the common sense exemption, as there is no potential for the project to cause a significant environmental impact. If the council concurs and will be approving the extension of services to Mr. Ladsu, which staff recommends, there is a suggested motion for the council's consideration on page 1 of your staff report. Are there any questions?
So
I have a question.
I have a couple, but go ahead, Councilmember Deutsch.
Thanks, ma'am. Rico, how would you describe this in the larger scheme of things? How often do these come up, and how does this fit in with the normal? What is normal?
Yeah, so I'm going to take that last question first. What is normal? It's been handled different ways by the city over the years. However, pursuant to the Cortese-Knoxburg or Cortese-Hertzberg, help me out, Juliana. Pursuant to the state law.
I don't.
I know, it's tongue twister. So,
yeah.
Pursuant to state law, we're supposed to get an out-of-area service agreement that's approved by the Local Agency Formation Commission. Local Agency Formation Commissions are tasked with the organized the formation and of districts and cities. So really what they're looking at is making sure that we don't extend services outside city limits and have unplanned growth occur. Now, with regard to South Dunsmuir, this is really a non-issue. These properties have been subdivided for many years. Small urban-sized lots have been provided city services since time immemorial. Some of them, I will tell you, some properties in South Dunsmuir still are on septic. I remember when I was at the county, we actually had a septic go bad on South First Street that I don't recall if we made them connect or not. I don't believe we did because I was also the LAFCO deputy officer. And what I recall from when I was at the county, I think we only did one of these in Dunsmuir, South Dunsmuir. Separate from the out-of-area service agreement that I worked on when I was with LAFCO, the city in the past, I think it's probably like the last 5 years, has handled this. So we've had two out-of-area service agreements in the last 5 years. Or I take that back. We've had two extensions of services outside city limits, one of which had an out-of-area service agreement done correctly, and one that we just simply connected. So even within staff, there seems to have been some misunderstanding about the process, when it's required, when it's not required. I will tell you, this one's a little weird. And I say that because I'm not used to seeing connections made more than 15 years ago. And what I have since found out in speaking with Public Works, or not Public Works, but the Water Department, is that there's a number of these connections already in place in South Dunsmuir that have not been made yet. So particularly with regard to this property, that's basically if you go from the, I believe it's the mobile home park all the way down to the wastewater treatment plant, there are a number of properties that may be looking for out-of-area service agreements in the future. When this issue first came up, it was my recollection, and of course I did an out-of-area service agreement in South Dunsmuir, so I should know better. But it's always, since I've been planning in Siskiyou County, I've known of two regional wastewater treatment plants, Mount Shasta and Dunsmuir, that provide services on a regular basis to people outside city limits. Juliana certainly knows Mount Shasta a lot better than I do, but Mount Shasta does in fact have an agreement with LAFCO to extend services automatically within a certain service area. We
Yeah,
have
yeah,
found
sorry, go ahead.
in working with LAFCO, we have found a reference to some sort of agreement. However, that agreement appears to have been between the county and the city to provide extended services to people outside city limits. Frankly, it didn't go through LAFCO as it should have, that agreement. So whether it's of any validity, and nor has anyone even found it, but we found reference to it. So I expect these to come up more often. In the interim, we are looking at this. I am taking this through the council right now to get this approved, to keep it moving forward. However, if we do not need to actually go to LAFCO with this went tonight. So, that's one thing we will find out in the coming days, whether or not we truly need out of area service agreements. And if so, we will continue to pursue them. And one of the nice things about these is that, LAFCO meets quarterly. And, there's greater, it used to be around $2,800 to apply for an out of area service agreement every time. And that cost was passed on to the property owner. When I was with LAFCO, I got LAFCO to approve some changes so we can extend services, or so LAFCO can extend services, or approve out of area service agreements so cities can extend services administratively. So it's now a much faster process, less expensive. So while we're working through these, at least it's not the headache that it used to be to get an out of area service agreement approved. So I've probably forgotten some of your questions, Councillor Deutsch.
No, that was fine. That was great. Thank you.
As far as what is normal, there is no normal, but these could be, in general, these come up every, it looks like maybe 3 every 6 years. So 1 every 2 years. And we expect a few more of these to show up in the near future.
Thank you.
Council members, are there other questions? I have a couple of questions. First off, yeah, so my understanding of Mount Shasta's situation is we have basically an approved map by LAFCO of areas which extend beyond our city limits that are eligible to connect to certain services. So we have one for water and one for sewer. From what I can, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that was my understanding as well, yes.
Yeah, so based on what you're saying is we don't necessarily have that for the city of Dunsmuir. We don't have like an pre-approved map that just says these are the eligible areas for services.
Correct.
Okay.
But what I don't know with regard to these properties on South First Street at present is whether or not an out of area service agreement was ever approved, because what happened is this was a subdivision in the county. And just the way it works in the county is county planning staff is also LAFCO staff. So when this subdivision was approved, they went to the city and they said, look, can you provide services? Were you willing to provide services? City said, yes. They said, okay. They told the individual, you need to get a will serve letter from the city. They did exactly that in the form of actually prepaying for their connections. And then LAFCO argued with the city manager, or the city manager argued with LAFCO about whether or not an out of area service agreement was ever needed. There's documentation regarding this communication, but it doesn't seem to have been resolved. And it's unclear because, again, if you have a subdivision in the county and your LAFCO staff as well, you'd simply add a condition of approval to that subdivision saying you need to get an out of area service agreement. So I'm not sure what exactly. I'm still trying to uncover
investigating
trying to figure out what happened here and just move this forward in the meantime.
Gotcha. So the current proposal that you have in front of us for the resolution does not include a timeline to annex. Would
That's
that be a
correct.
condition? Would that
No.
be a condition of approval that could be added to this resolution? Say, due to the length of the properties from the existing city limits, they'll have, 15 years to annex or forfeit connection.
No, what they do is they actually, before LAFCO will approve this out of area service agreement, Mr. Ladsu, as well as anybody else who seeks an out of area service agreement, will require that they waive their right to contest any future annexations.
Cool. All right. As long as that's really, really clear.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all my.
That said, as you know, with an annexation, it has to be continuous. You can't have
Correct.
a detached annexation. So we've got a lot of properties out there in South Dunsmuir that have city services right now that are under no obligation to annex into the city.
Yeah. Okay. Those are my questions. Any other questions, council members, before I move into public comment?
I have a quick question. Matthew, were you able to get on LAFCO?
I was not, sadly. No one ever even responded.
I'll give them
I think,
Okay, thanks.
I think there's going to be a couple of seats opening for LAFCO here pretty soon. I think sometime in March next year is when a couple of the seats are up. So I'll keep an eye on that, or someone will keep an eye on it. All right. Not seeing any other questions, we're going to move into public comments. Is there any public comment on the proposed extension of services? All right, I don't see any public comment. Again, if you're on the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand. All right, I do not see any public comments, so I'll move us into discussion. I'm going to start off just because I have a couple, I have a beef with this. So as a planner, it is very, very, very annoying when cities agree to extend basically all of the benefits of a city without requiring people to annex. And so I'm very critical of these types of proposed agreements without any contingencies to annex in the future, or as the planner, city planner said, they'd have to forfeit their right to contest an annexation, which I appreciate. And actually, if it's not in the resolution language and I didn't see it, would it be possible to amend the resolution to include that language, Rico?
We can amend the resolution, but again, the county, Siskiyou LAFCO, the executive officer, will not approve this. It is so the resolution that was approved by LAFCO that I wrote stipulates that nobody will get services unless they waive their right to contest future annexations. So LAFCO staff cannot approve this and I've confirmed this with staff, and they have no intent on approve the out of area service agreement unless Mr. Ladsu waives his right to contest future annexations. It's a requirement of all out of area service agreements.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure if it's a resolution putting that in place that they can't reverse that at some point in the future, and then that leaves us up a creek. So that's why I'm very particular about this, that I really would like that wording to be in our resolution, just so that it can double up and make sure nothing changes in the future, because it is far away from city limits and you never know what things change, you know what I mean? So that would be my only thing that I have concerned about this, and that I had anticipated possibly voting no, is because I wanted to make sure that if we are giving individual property owners the benefits of being within a city limit, that they cannot contest when we come to annex them, or we require that they annex in a certain amount of time. So I'm happy with that. Is there any other discussion on the motion at hand? Seeing no discussion, is there a motion?
Well, Madam Mayor, do I understand that you are now okay with the wording of the recommended motion?
If Rico's okay with it, I'll be okay with it. But I again, my big thing is I really want to make sure that they cannot contest, and that cannot change in the future.
So long as we do not extend services to Mr. Ladsu until he waives his right, which we wouldn't be extending services until that out of area service agreement is in place. We won't run into any issues. I know the executive officer for LAFCO, we've had this conversation.
Okay.
It is a requirement.
I'm happy with that.
What did he say?
Basically, Rico has confirmed that LAFCO is on the same page and that we will make sure that he waives his rights to any future annexation.
In that case,
So I'm happy.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-22, approving the extension of water and wastewater services to 941 South First Street. And then there's a number, APNS 030-380-380 and 030-380-390.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
I'll give it to Councilmember Arth.
Well, I had
Any other
stereo.
discussion? Yeah. Is there any
Well,
other discussion on the motion at hand? Go ahead,
I
Councilmember Arth.
appreciate the sophisticated interchange between the city planner and the mayor. I now understand why my career was not in city planning. It's worse than getting fired. But as a former utility regulator, I think it benefits the city's water and sewer system to acquire more customers. The more customers we get, the more economically viable our teeny water and utility and sewer utility systems are. So I'm for it.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Councilmember Deutsch.
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler.
Aye.
Councilmember Arth.
Aye.
And myself as an aye, motion carries. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And thank you, City Planner Rico Tinsman.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you, Rico.
All right, I do not see any other new business on our agenda tonight, so I will move us into future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items that we have not previously talked about that we need to get updates on, or anything new in particular?
I have one.
Go ahead, Councilmember Deutsch.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to get on the agenda the contract, what's the word, modification for the city manager, as has been discussed, in order to bring him up to speed with the same contracts that we had with previous city managers regarding compensation after evaluation.
Okay, yeah, I was working with City Manager Uhas on that prior to my vacation, so yes, we can bring that to a future meeting. Councilmember Arth.
Thank you.
Well, of course, I'm very much looking forward to returning to visioning and planning. But apart from that, I'm reaching out to Councilmember Keisler, because he was mayor in 2014 when the city of Dunsmuir unanimously agreed to appoint a 5-member committee to oversee our historic district. And as we move into reinventing our local economy and dealing with the downtown shabby building issue, the discussion I had with the city manager and the State Department that oversees historic districts throughout California, to me, they made it pretty clear, the senior architect and the head of the department, that we need to do more than just have 2 members of the planning commission. We're really not in compliance with the concept. So I would hope that the staff could present us with options for strengthening the oversight of our historic district in the near term. The second and related issue, goes back to public comment and some of the council member comments about our enforcement policy around infractions that involve residents, and more importantly, the perception that we're really not doing anything with regard to commercial buildings. We passed the vacant and abandoned building ordinance that we'd led with great fanfare in the spring, but the perception is we're not doing anything. And I would like to see a policy as an agenda item that we could all discuss and that the public can comment on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other future agenda items?
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilmember Keisler.
I'd like to be the second one to talk about what Peter just said about the distressed buildings. So there's two council members that shall come back. And then the code priorities, I'm a second council member, that too shall come back. We really need to take a look at these. And then
Hey, Councilmember Keisler, you're going in and out. Could you maybe repeat the last part?
okay, I have the paper over there, and then I turn over here to talk. So now I have the paper.
Okay.
On the distressed buildings.
Yeah, I heard the first part. I just didn't hear the second part.
The code. The second one was the priorities on our code. Code enforcement. We need to take a look at that. Like he says, we're giving out. I'm trying not to use a bad word. We're giving out menial tickets when we have other things like distressed buildings that are really more important. And then he's right. We did take a look back with the historical district. We had a committee. It was an oversight thing. Maybe we could take a look at forming another committee, but that's where we brought the planning commission and the city council together and talked about it. And we had Ron McLeod come in there. Maybe because that's a new council, maybe we could do that again, invite Ron McLeod to enlighten, because it's things that should get passed on, you know. Anyway. And then I was wondering, Todd, is there any way that we could look for grants for solar for schools and public buildings? I mean, I heard we got a grant, so I was wondering if we could take a look at that. And then on the other note is
Dave,
yeah,
we can't hear you, Dave.
you can't hear me.
You turned away again.
Can
You had turned your head away again and you got muffled, but we can hear you now.
Okay, grants for the solar for the schools, for public buildings. We got a grant. I was wondering if we could get a grant. And then last, Veterans Day is coming up. We really don't got that much time, but I would like to have council's blessings by putting something together with the help of Councilmember Deutsch and Councilmember Arth. We got connections, and we need to find out if Lopi's available and what time would work with other events, because people go here, go there, go there. We want to have a convenient time. Sometimes early works best. So those are my things. I'm willing to work with you guys to do whatever on any of it, but what do you think?
I'm with you,
I think that's-
Councilmember Keisler.
I think if you and Councilmember Arth want to work together on the Veterans Day item and just keep us in the loop, that would be great.
Todd, can
Madam
you
Mayor, would you likely be available for a short set of words
Yeah,
at the cemetery?
Yeah, if you can just let me know just what time you want me to be there, and we'll just have if it's okay for city staff, we'll just notice it as a special meeting. So just get together with Councilmember Keisler and see if you can talk to ex-Emeritus Sheriff Lopi. I believe that's what it is.
Yeah, who's going to do a reach out to Lopi?
why don't you two get together and get that settled? And then let us know what time, and then we can have the city staff do a special meeting so that all council members can attend. And we just need a 24-hour notice for a special meeting.
I'll call
Beautiful. Thank
Logie after
you.
the meeting tonight.
Okay. You guys,
Okay.
you guys handle that, and then we'll get in touch and arrange something.
Thank you.
Just one,
Okay.
one more note before I go. 18th, Bruce said there was something going on the 18th, but it's also a read across Siskiyou. So if anybody's listening to this and you have children, I guess you tune in to the read across Siskiyou for the kids, and we'll be reading. And then last but not least, the virus has tripled. Do the task and wear the mask. Just protect ourselves. If we get shut down, our restaurants and stores get shut down, we're screwed. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other future agenda items? Seeing none, I'll move us into adjournment. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we are adjourned. We are
Have a good
adjourned for
night.
tonight at 8:21 p.m. If you have any questions related to any of the items presented or discussed today, please email Todd Uhas, City Manager, or Wendy Perkins, our City Clerk. So thank you everyone for tonight, and please be safe and have a wonderful weekend.
Stay safe, everyone.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. That was a good job.